This is a fictional mindbender. Vi and Jinx. Who's the better sibling? Who's the hero? And who's the villain? I had to go through a double portion of Netflix's Arcane Season 2 to really get a grasp on this topic, because it really does an excellent job of pulling on both ends of the heartstrings, if I'm being honest. Go online via TikTok or Twitter or YouTube, and you'll get the whole gambit of polarizing responses to these questions. Both sisters have their equal share of supporters and demonizers, it would seem to me. After watching Acts 1 and 2 of Season 2, the show definitely seems to play up more of Jinx's side of being the hero rather than the villain. Yes, she's been killing enforcers and robbing people and so on, and is broken and mentally unstable in the previous seasons, and kills most of the council by its end. At the same time, it also sets up ample reason for this as well, however. The death of her parents, her accidentally killing her found family, and older sister sibling abandoning her when she tried to help, and Vi coming back to her trying to reconcile several times before always going away again at the last minute because of either intruders or, yes, Caitlyn. More on that later. Season 2 sets up Jinx even more so ironically as the hero for these actions. Zaun's voice and fists striking out against those that oppress them and forgot that they even exist in the slums. Yet Jinx doesn't feel like a hero nor act like one. She's suicidal and pushing others away because, ironically, what her sister called her years ago, she's a Jinx to everyone that she meets and who knows her. But then she has an upswing in her luck when she saves a young girl, Aisha, whom, despite Jinx's best attempts to push her away and warn her, stays faithfully by her side. Aisha reintroduces a sense of stability to Jinx, many arguing that she reminds her of her younger self. But either way, Jinx begins to be seen no longer as the batshit crazy girl as her theme song loudly proclaims, but the older sibling and protector and up-and-coming revolutionary for the oppressed people of her city. And it's also through Aisha that Jinx starts to become the very thing that everyone seems to view her as, including us, the viewers. Vi, on the other hand, has always been a lot more nuanced than her younger sibling, and this makes labeling her objectively difficult, if we insist on it at least. Season 1, she starts out as to protect her older sibling that loves powder, but because she's older, she's also more fully aware of just how ugly their lives are. Moreover, she's also quick-tempered and ready to fight and, if need be, kill if her family is threatened, even other kids. She comes off as much more broken from the very start, so that by the time of her first separation from her sister, I think it's easier for us to see Vi as the fuck-up of the family. Not a villain per se at this point, but definitely a fuck-up. Essentially, we were programmed from the beginning of Season 1 to kind of see her as not in the best light. And when she's let out of prison years later, she starts to embody our perceptions of her. When reuniting with Jinx, she openly admits that what happened between them regarding her pushing her away was her fault, and she's carrying a Mount Everest-sized chip on her shoulder to boot. So far, it's understandable, a classic hero's journey, if you will. But in Season 1, her plans to reconcile continue to be interrupted, and arguably by none more so than Caitlyn. Now, before you go apeshit on me that I'm a Caitlyn hater, hear me out. Caitlyn represents to Vi something similar that Silco represented to Jinx, a point of calm and stability amidst the broken storm that is their core personalities. The difference obviously being that one is much more parental than the other. Caitlyn and Jinx couldn't be more opposite in Season 1. And Vi is torn between wanting to reunite with her sister and make amends within their chaotic lives, and sharing a stable, loving life, or potential loving life at that point, with Caitlyn, who consistently urges her not to follow that earlier path. And therein lies the kicker for why so many are divided on Vi being the hero or a villain, as well as why a lot of people don't like Caitlyn. Basically, by the end of season 1, the show seems to portray Vi on some level choosing Caitlyn / stability over Jinx / chaos, or more accurately put, family. And because of how everything started in the beginning with Vi rejecting Powder and Vi being shown as being more broken, although more protective as well, it was just much easier for viewers, I think, to see her as yet again not only betraying her sister, but now also becoming the primary catalyst that pushes Jinx completely into that identity. Now, enter season 2, which almost confirms this through its visuals. While Jinx's life is on an upswing, Vi is now drowning in her own misery. She finally has a death match with her own family, almost kills a child who would do anything to protect the one that she herself had sworn to protect years ago, tries to stop herself by trying to stop her now lover / stability from doing the wrong thing in killing the child and or Jinx, only to then lose her too in the process as a consequence of that action. And in the midst of that despair, Vi copes the only way that she knows how, through fight clubs and binge drinking into oblivion. She's arguably actually just as mad as Jinx was in season 1. And when she later on sees Jinx with Aisha and how her own people view her as well, it's basically like she's getting dogpiled by everyone on screen, off screen, and by the viewers as well, that she's just a piece of shit. Jinx openly says as much during their sisterly and funny fight. Granted, it's lighthearted and everything, but it also carries a large amount of truth that is not well hidden, to say the least. And all of that leads to Vi finally asking her sister why she even wants her back. So again, who's who in Arcane? I'm going to argue neither. Both Jinx and Vi are broken fuck-ups. Jinx, while given a plethora of reasons why she does what she does, is still ultimately the one pulling the trigger. And what other options did she have? Perhaps none. But it was still a choice. And she, in the beginning of season 2, recognizes and accepts that fact, that she is the villain. But with her life with Aisha, and when she is reunited with Vander and finally Vi as well, she tries to put that life away. Jinx might be still Jinx, but she doesn't want to be the villain anymore. She never wanted to be crazy, and more or less felt like her hand was pretty much forced. But either way, she still did bad things and recognized that, and now she feels like she's given, as she says at one point to Vi, a second chance, and she doesn't want to fuck it up again. Vi's issues are more on the surface and introduced earlier on, and I think that's programmed many of us to more easily see her as the only fuck up of the show. But she does care deeply for her family, and despite being as violent as broken as she is, still has a moral compass somewhere in her, as well as acknowledging that she is still quite broken. It's just, it takes a hell of a lot to get to that moral compass, never mind other people actually seeing it. Moreover, like her sister, Vi doesn't want to be that person anymore. She doesn't want to be a fuck up who messes up her family. She doesn't want to be the person who's always getting into fights. She doesn't want to be the person who's always getting blasted at the bar to oblivion and not remembering where she woke up at. And even though in season 2 she acknowledges that at least half of this is not really her fault, it doesn't matter. She doesn't want to be associated with that person anymore. So by the end of Act 2, season 2, she's trying to get the both of both worlds. Stability and happiness with her father and sisters, and yes, I said it, sisters, and possibly even the love of her life at the end of Act 2. Even though, I would argue, Caitlyn is not needed for her to be happy, because Vi was already heavily considering it and starting to heal from everything that's happened before Caitlyn even showed up, and she was even aware that she might be interested in reconciling themselves. And another point to Vi's case as well, it's also worth noting that when she introduces Caitlyn to her family, This time she doesn't run. And even when Aisha sacrifices herself to save Jinx, Vi doesn't abandon her sister this time, but tries to save her, tragic as it is. So I think it's like what a lot of fans online have pretty much said. Neither character can catch a break in this show. And, in my opinion, Arcane is quickly turning out to be the Western version of Attack on Titan, where if you're expecting a happy ending, you're watching the wrong show. But we'll see how it turns out, and I do hope it turns out for the better. But who knows? Otherwise, this is a fictional mind bender. Let me know your thoughts below. Have a good day.